transforming lives, healing hearts, and winning souls. You're watching Paula Today.
Today we're going to learn how to take ancient wisdom and apply it to this modern experience to improve your life. My very special guest is a distinguished authority on this subject, and we're going to identify critical steps that will make your success possible. Don't you dare miss it. Welcome to the program. I am so excited that you have tuned in today. You're at the right place at the right time to hear information that will radically transform your life. For the next 30 minutes, we're going to talk about a practical approach to creating wealth based on the established principles of Jewish tradition. The Torah has much to say on this subject. And although originally delivered to the Jewish people, many of the principles which are our foundation as believers are universal and are true for all of us regardless of religious affiliation. You do not have to be Jewish to have success and access to these foundational principles that have been a part of traditional Jewish culture for so many centuries. My guest today has devoted much of his time to researching and studying the characteristics that have helped Jews excel in business. He is a very distinguished rabbi and best-selling author. He is a syndicated radio talk show host, renowned business consultant, and biblical scholar. And I am so delighted and very honored to have him with me today. Please welcome Rabbi Daniel Lapin to Paula Today. I am so honored to have you.
Very much indeed. Appreciate it very much indeed.
Thank you. It is such an honor to have you with us. And you have written a book on Thou Shalt Prosper, 10 Commandments for Making Money. And I love the introduction, the very beginning. You talk about the disproportions, really.
Yes.
That in America, the Jewish population is less than 2%.
It's about 2%, that's right. And that means that on something like the Forbes 400 list, there should be about 8 or 8.5 Jews. In fact, there's never been fewer than 60, and it's usually closer to 100 since the list began. And this is too much to be a coincidence. There must be a reason for that. And that was the origin of the book. I thought, let's try and find out what are the reasons why Jews have always been disproportionately successful with money. And not only in the United States in the 20th century, in the 21st century, but in the early years of our country, in Europe during the Middle Ages, always. And if we could identify whether these things are unique to Jews or whether there is a set of principles that Jews and Christians of all backgrounds could use effectively in their lives.
And that's what you really do. You endeavor in this book to show us what are those principles. Because, as you said, it's not something that is new with this generation or to this culture of people within America. It is all throughout history. And that is because of the proven principles. Yes. So take us to the foundation. Where do we start?
Well, we start with, exactly as you said at the introduction, we start with the Torah, which has 613 principles within it. And I think everyone will be extremely relieved to discover that this book does not have 613 chapters. But all of that has been condensed and compressed into what I call the 10 Commandments for making money, 10 basic chapters that take you through all of these principles, and in each and every one of them is crucial. For instance, you might think that the story of the brothers selling Joseph is just that, it's just a story, but it isn't like that at all. There is that fateful phrase where the brothers are about to kill Joseph, and he's lying in the pit and he's going to die, and then they come up with this truly bizarre thing. But if you think about it, if you don't have this background, it's perfectly natural. They say, wait a second, what profit is there in killing our brother? I mean, if we could make money out of killing him, well, we'd do that, of course. But how do you make money out of killing your brother? You don't. What can we do? Why don't we sell him as a slave? There's an idea. And later on, you watch this entire interaction in Egypt between Joseph and his brothers. What's going on there? He's trying to teach them a simple lesson. You don't get friends as a result of having money. You get money as a result of having friends. And finally, their father gets it right, and he says to them, go back to Egypt. They say, we don't want to. We're scared. The guy, he's a dangerous maniac there, not knowing it's their brother. And the father says, look, this time, don't worry about taking money. Just take some nuts and some honey. Just take some things that show the thought, show that your heart is behind it. Write a little personal note. And that changes. Joseph sees that and he says, they're getting the idea. It's not about the money, it's about the relationships. A lot of people are mistaken. They think, if only I had money, I'd be popular, I'd have a lot of friends. You don't have real friends that way. What really happens is that when you work on building a lot of relationships, guess what happens? Revenue and wealth and prosperity follow.
I've always said that your network has a lot to do with your net worth. And that it really is. And that's the principles that you talk about, real wealth, and God's wealth specifically, which He desires. He talks so much about it. That it is based on ethics, on doing good to people, doing business God's way, doing it good way. And that is vital, because you said it wasn't that friends do not, having money does not get you friends. But having friends can get you money.
That's exactly right.
And it's really turning it around to understand that when we value each other and empower each other and work with each other, we can create wealth and not only network our wealth together, but really go places.
Well, it's not an accident that, probably in no more than a few hours from now, you are going to be conducting a worship service, right?
Correct.
And when we go into a store and we're going to buy a pair of shoes and the sales professional goes down on his knees before us, we call that customer service. It's the same word. And all that's happening really is what happens when you have little children and they're, fighting with each other and arguing and squabbling with each other, and that makes mother and father really irritated and upset. The kids don't see any connection between the way they're treating each other and how mother and father react. But then one day, miracle of miracles, they're all as good as honey and they're treating each other compassionately and they're doing favors for each other, and all of a sudden mother and father give them treats and mother and father are full of smiles, and they still don't get the connection. Well, our Father in heaven has lots and lots of children. How do you think He feels when we treat one another caringly? And really, what is business? And we're all in business. What is it other than being obsessively preoccupied with what other people need and want?
It's serving one another.
It's serving other people, exactly.
It's really helping them fulfill and find their best interest. I was reading recently, somebody talked about charity has a mindset, even though its truest definition does not mean this, but of almost holding a person under you, like I am being benevolent and I'm doing good to you. But when you stop looking at it as charitable and look at it as serving, because serving puts everything more on a playing field. We serve one another, and that's the simplest of commandments, to love God with all your heart, soul, and mind, and then to love your neighbor as you love yourself.
That's exactly right. And I may come and mow your lawn for you because I want to get paid. But really, what's really happening is I'm doing you a favor. I'm doing something good for you. And that goodness is not undermined by the fact that you pay me my money for doing the job. The fact is I'm still taking care of a need that you have. And that's what's really important. There's nothing menial about serving one another. And these are some of the Torah principles.
The principles. Yes. And so, Rabbi, what are the first steps? Because somebody's saying, how does relationship create wealth? And what is the first step to actually building the wealth in our life?
Well, the first step is to absolutely, deeply comprehend that money is spiritual, not physical. And it's not little discs of metal or pieces of paper or the orientation of iron oxide on the back of a piece of plastic we call a credit card. That's not what money is. It's something spiritual. And the difference between physical and spiritual is that physical can only be in one place at a time. Spiritual doesn't necessarily diminish. And so the real question is money more like cake or like light and candles? If it's like cake and I want a little more money, well, I better take away some of yours and some of his and some of theirs, and that way I'll have more. But if it isn't like that, if money's more like each of you holding a candle, and I come in and I light my candles from your candles and bring more light into the room, I've taken nothing from you at all.
Right.
And so when you realize that the way to make money is not to think in terms of taking anything from anybody else, but that it's truly spiritual and you are creating it truly, out of nothing, out of thin air, because that's really how wealth is created. When you realize that, you're ready to move to the next step. And the next most important step is to forget the old idea of you must do what you're passionate about. No, that's a very selfish way of looking at it. That's not what God wants us to do. That says, hey, I want to be a boat captain, and I'm not going to do anything else. I just want to be a boat captain. It doesn't matter that nobody around there needs me as a boat captain. That's not the right way. The right way is to say, wait a second, what do the people in my world need? The people in my neighborhood, the people in my church, the people in my community. I've got to look around with fresh, open eyes and with open ears. I've got to move my ego out of the way. My relationship with God has to make me totally open. Let me see what they really need.
Right.
And then I've got to do that. Not what I want to do, what they need me to do. And then the trick is to become truly passionate about that, and to do that with every ounce and molecule in your being with full enthusiasm. And that makes all the difference.
Boy, this is phenomenal. And we're going to come back and clear up some of the misconceptions, some of the misperceptions, having that changed mindset, because people struggle manifesting. They live in scarcity when God has really promised abundant life. And I want to help you get there. Rabbi, you are phenomenal, and he's going to teach you through God's principles how to prosper. We'll be right back.
Don't go away. Much more with Paula and Rabbi Daniel Lapin in a moment. In the first 5 books of our Bible, also known in Hebrew as the Torah, God reveals the principles and laws that position His children for lifelong blessing and favor. Now, nationally known speaker, author, and Hebraic scholar Rabbi Daniel Lapin reveals the wisdom in God's Word that will help you attain your personal goals and successes in his book, Thou Shalt Prosper, 10 Commandments for Making Money.
What are the reasons why Jews have always been disproportionately successful?
Here again is Paula and Rabbi Daniel Lapin.
You hit some great things. I want to touch on something. You talk about making money isn't moral.
Yes.
And let's hear from you, your perspective, because you hit something that I really want to deal with today.
Well, this is a massive problem, because none of us can truly succeed at anything that deep down we consider to be immoral. And so if we believe that somehow becoming wealthy, increasing revenue, making money is wrong, immoral, you will never be able to tell anybody what the true value of your services is. You'll always be awkward when you give the price of what you want, and you'll never be able to ask for a raise at work if you don't believe in the inherent morality. And that's absolutely crucial. You know, it's not an accident. I'm always fascinated when I think about this, that in 1953, Edmund Hillary became the first man to climb Everest. Nobody had ever done that before. Well, the next year, about 50 people did it. And last year, about 800 people did it. Everybody climbs Everest today. Why didn't they do it before? Because nobody believed it could be done.
Right.
And if you don't believe that making money is moral, because all it means is that you are supplying other people with the things they need. You're supplying jobs to people you employ. You're supplying goods and services to people who need them. If you don't believe that, you will never, ever succeed at what you're doing. And that is absolutely crucial.
Rabbi, this is so important, because if the mindset and the perceptions not change, especially within the realms of people that God has given me a specific assignment of influence. And I say it is what I call that spirit of poverty, which is a mindset.
Well, that's exactly right. People sometimes say, are you a body with a soul or a soul? No. We are souls that happen to have bodies. And so what we believe deep within us makes all the difference in the world. If you believe something about yourself, you're halfway to being there.
And the importance is this, is that the Old Testament, and I love Old Testament, I think Psalm says, what shall the righteous do if the foundation be destroyed?
Yes.
And so if we don't understand our Hebraic roots, if we don't understand the foundation, the way that God's patterns and principles operate, you can never build a house.
You touched on my whole life, my whole mission. What I live for is to make ancient Jewish wisdom accessible to Americans of every possible background.
And what you said, Rabbi, is so important with this, that you, and I hope I'm articulating this right, when we serve others, the exchange for that service is wealth back to us in a particular way, that when we serve someone and have wealth back, and yet there's a mindset that if you get money or you have money, either you did something wrong or something immoral, and I'm always sitting there going, hello, hello, because it's never a pursuit for me, it was never a pursuit of money. It was pursuit for the benefit of other people. And the more I gave and the more I helped people and the more I served people, I've never prayed one prayer, not that I believe it's wrong, but I particularly never prayed a prayer for any kind of material blessing.
That's right, of course.
I simply wanted to
What a selfish thing to do. But if you pray for opportunities to do things for other people, don't be surprised if a good and loving God rewards us with this great blessing of material prosperity.
And I so understand that. And it just, you stand there kind of thinking, why is there such the battle over what we say prosperity or wealth? Because our forefathers, our foundation, understand it. There would be something, I'm sure within the Jewish tradition and the Jewish culture, you would almost look at like if someone thought, I'm supposed to be poor. Because there's an expectation.
That would be a real...
It'd be a tragedy.
That would be a sin. Or even worse, it would be stupid.
and yet that is our big battle. I mean, sincerely, it's a mindset.
No, it really is. I always tell people, take out a dollar bill. Now tell me, if you mugged a little old lady on your way here and that's how you got the dollar bill, put it back. I don't want to see it. Or if you stole it from somebody, put it back. You robbed it somebody, put it back. I don't want to see it. Now, if you're still holding your dollar bill, the way I figure it is the only way you got it is somebody willingly put it in your hands because you did something for them that they valued more.
And when we get that mindset, not I'm demanding or I expect to get this, but I'm offering my life for service, and the exchange of that is a good God blesses you, and you cannot get away from our roots that the hand of God, the first thing he said to Abraham was, I'm going to make you rich.
Yes.
That's the very
That's
first
right,
thing.
Exactly. Absolutely.
And I'm thinking,
that was crucial. And Abraham didn't say, oh, I don't know, I think I'd rather be poor and virtuous. I mean, he didn't say that. No. The children of Abraham do not think that way. And that's one of the reasons, if you notice, Jewish names are not just funny, they're real because they advertise what people used to do for one another. That's why you had names like Goldstein or Goldsmith meant if you didn't need an advertisement on the wall that told you. Silverman, you go to him for silver. Woodman was where you went to get wood for your fire, or Waterman. There are all these Jewish names, all flow from an advertisement of what you do. You know, blacksmith, a common name as well. People were very comfortable. And to this day, there's something innate about that, because sometimes, you're sitting on a plane with somebody, one of the very first questions, if you start talking to your seatmate, one of the very first questions is, what do you do? What they're really saying is, what do you do for your fellow human beings? And that's a good question.
And that's the starting point, isn't it?
That's the starting point.
Your purpose in the earth. How can I serve humanity? Where is the supply of my life finding a demand to meet and to fulfill? And in exchange, currency is just a flow.
And when you notice, that's exactly right. And when you notice that, God speaks at the beginning of Genesis about everything was good. He creates this was good, that was good. The first time we see God getting grumpy is the very first time we say, God says, not good. What's that? Not good for man to be alone. And he's not just talking about Adam saying he needs a wife. That's not all he's saying. I mean, that's true as well. But he's saying it's not good for anybody to be alone, because if you are alone, you starve. You can own, and that's one of the reasons wealth is created in cities, not in isolated countrysides where nobody is. God has set up a system where we are rewarded the more we interact benevolently and charitably and compassionately with all other human beings in the largest number possible.
Rabbi, I had the great privilege of teaching with several organizations the truest purpose of prosperity, and I took them through 7 levels, but that final, which is really your commandment number 9 as well, and that final was that in my estimation, and I believe believe the greatest purpose of prosperity is when you can affect another person's destiny. You're blessed to be a blessing.
Yes.
And when we understand that, talk to us a little bit about that commandment number 9.
Sure. Commandment number 9 is giving away 10% of everything you earn. Now, I think this is a really fantastic thing because I've worked in sales when I was a student. I always found that I used to get a 10% commission. But it's so wonderful to work for a boss in heaven who lets us work at a 90% commission. All we got to do is give him 10%.
I agree.
Which is outstanding. It's a fantastic deal. And so the really important thing, now, I am totally ignorant about a lot of things, including golf. I do not know the first thing about golf. But what people tell me is that the follow-through is important. In other words, what the club does after it hits the ball is really important, because somehow or another, in one of the great mysteries of life, if the club does something weird after it hits the ball, then the ball isn't going to go in the right place in the first place. So in exactly the same way, there's got to be follow-through from the very outset. If you are trying to increase your income, and everybody should be doing that, because the only way you're increasing your income is by, if you find ways of doing things for me. I love that.
Right.
And so you're working on increasing your income, go for it. I bless you, and I want you to succeed, because you'll be doing things for me, and you'll be able to afford my services, and this is going to be God's blessing on all of us, and it's wonderful. But start off by giving away 10% right at the beginning, minimum. Don't ever say, I can't afford it when I make money.
Right.
Then I'll give it. That's not going to work, because you're messing up the follow-through. You're not going to hit the ball onto the green. I knew that much. So,
and that's something, I know we only have about a minute, and then we're going to take a break, come back, but that is something deeply held to the Jewish tradition, culture, and really to the principles of God. You don't violate the principle.
Yes, that's correct.
You don't violate the principle.
Not if you want to succeed.
There it is. We're going to be right back. And I've always said, you want God's results, you have to do it God's way. And I know this is ministered to you. God is bringing ancient Jewish beliefs and tradition to modern application. The wisdom of God coming to you today through Rabbi Lapin. We'll be right back.
More biblical principles for your success on Paula Today after this. In the first 5 books of our Bible, also known in Hebrew as the Torah, God reveals the principles and laws that position His children for lifelong blessing and favor. Now, nationally known speaker, author, and Hebraic scholar Rabbi Daniel Lapin reveals the wisdom in God's Word that will help you attain your personal goals and successes in his book, Thou Shalt Prosper, 10 Commandments for Making Money.
What are the reasons why Jews have always been disproportionately successful?
Rabbi, you teach the 10th commandment, and I love it. Never retire.
That's exactly right.
The Jewish people and culture do not believe in retirement.
Well, not the good ones.
Right.
Because there is no word in the Lord's language, Hebrew. There is no word for retirement, because it's an obscenity. It's a really bad thing. There's several things wrong with it. First of all, if you notice, tragically, very often when people retire, they deteriorate physically.
Right.
If that's not God giving you a message, what is? And the second thing that's wrong with it is it emphasizes your selfishness. And none of this is about selfishness. As long as you go into the enterprise of building up your wealth by emphasizing what you want, you're just a whining, grouchy child, and it's not surprising that our Father doesn't pay any attention to that.
Right.
But if you go into the enterprise focused obsessively on what other people need and how you can make them happier, filling their need, well, then obviously you expect our Father to respond positively with a blessing. Now, retirement means, I've got all I need, so who cares about you? I'm getting out of this.
Right.
You're just undoing your whole lifetime. You're saying this is all about selfishness. I don't need any more. That's terrible.
And so the very principles that cause the prosperity you're now violating and throwing away.
Exactly. And so if you go into this at the outset saying, well, when I reach the age of whatever it is, I'm going to retire, don't be surprised. It's not going to work, because all you're saying is, I'm only in this till I have what I want, then I'm quitting. No, you're in this because other people need you, not because of anything you need.
And Rabbi, what I love, the Apostle Paul said, I'm now ready to be offered up. And if I have it correctly, it meant a drink offering that was poured out until every bit of it was gone. And what he was saying is, when everything that has been put in me has been poured out of me, and there's nothing left to dispense on this earth, but all my assignment has been done, now I'm ready to go back and be one with my Maker. And I believe until you finish all assignment, you're not through. There is no such thing as retirement. You just continue to fulfill purpose. And as you fulfill purpose, you cannot help but prosper. Thank you so much, Rabbi.
Thank you.